Good afternoon. My name is Brian Reif, and welcome to today's Activity Strong webinar, Purpose as a Lifelong Anchor, Adapting and Thriving Through Change. Today, we are providing one free NAB, NCAP, NCCDP, NCTRC, and NZSRTD CEU credit. To be eligible for the CEU credit, you need to remain on the webinar for the full hour. At the end of the webinar, we will be providing the post-webinar required CEU survey in the chat room. This will also be sent to you via email after the webinar. Please make sure that you check your junk and spam folder. The survey must be completed by midnight Eastern Standard Time this Thursday. If you have any questions, please email webinars@lifeloop.com. CEU certificates will be issued by email on Friday. Again, please check your junk and spam folder on Friday for the CEU certificate. Thank you, and now I'll turn it over to Charles.
Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you so much for that quick introduction. Welcome, everyone. Really, welcome, everyone. We are so excited to be with you all. And it's a great day because we have Anna. We have Anna Hall, who is an amazing speaker. Actually, when I reflect back at my learning last year in 2024, I saw Anna speak, and what a gift it was. So Anna, I was really excited that we could bring you on today, and I'm excited to introduce you in just a few seconds. Again, like I said, welcome everyone. As you might or might not know, Activity Strong was built really on the idea that are going to be stemming through our presentation today, which is purpose. Activity Strong was started to acknowledge, empower, and educate activities and life enrichment. And as a certified activity director myself, I'm a little bit biased, but I would say that activities is what makes senior living senior living. It's what brings purpose to our residents and a sense of belonging. I am the SVP of Resident Engagement for Life Loop, and I'm excited to say that I believe that all people are cool, quote unquote, and that our platform Activity Strong, again, is one of the leading platforms to help enhance senior living. We built it in partnership with Activity Connection, NAP, and NCAP. A quick few slides to introduce you to Life Loop. Our goal at Life Loop is to help senior living flourish. We're very excited to serve more than 4,000 communities today and actually touch the lives of more than 550,000 residents, which is not an impressive number, and excited to be partnering with many of you on the call. The platform itself is designed to enrich the resident experience, but also bring all key stakeholders like the team members and obviously our family members. We're very, very focused on what we call outcomes, which are, obviously quality of life of our residents, satisfaction of our teams, but also revenue of our operator, which is really, really obviously essential. The platform itself is the most comprehensive platform, and what excites me, and we have announcements that I'll share at the end, but we recently launched AI-enhanced calendar management and resident onboarding. And so, today we touch the life of 1 in 6 seniors who live in communal setting. And so we're well on our way to double that in the next 3 years. So with that, I'm so excited to pass it over to Anna, like you probably sensed from the tone in my voice. Anna Hall is the Chief Culture and Community Officer with Front Porch. And her presentation today is going to guide us towards purpose as a lifelong anchor, adapting and thriving through change. Anna, thank you so much for being with us. And I'll give you the screen. And thank you again for your upcoming presentation.
Thank you so much for having me. And Charles, I share your passion for life enrichment. I got my start as a part-time activities assistant, as it was called then, when I was in my early 20s. And I knew right away that if this was a way that I could have a career in senior living, then for sure that's what I was going to do. And I'm so, so excited to be here with you all today. So we can pull up the PowerPoint whenever we're ready. and we will go from here. Now, I want to give you all a warning. Uh, the reason that I started the purpose equation, which is a framework that helps people of all ages and stages in life discover and activate, ignite their purpose, is because I wanted to find an ROI for purpose. And I knew that life enrichment, again, because so much of my career has been in that realm of engagement, I knew that it was the heartbeat of the community, that it's so critical for wellness and joy and meaning and longevity, healthy longevity. But when we talked about purpose, I thought we were all talking about something different. And so I really dove into research to try to understand what is purpose, why does it matter, and how can it make a difference in our world of senior living. So I'm going to share with you some, not all, but some of the research that informs how I think about purpose. So I'm excited to get started with that. So let's go to the next slide, and I will share our goals that I hope you all will understand when we're done with our time together today. So essentially, we're going to talk about what is the role of purpose in the aging process, and I would call it in the living process, because we're all aging if we're lucky enough. Why does it matter? How does purpose serve as an adaptive tool? So we're going to explore all kinds of theories around aging and change management to really hone in on that. And then I'm going to give you a tool to activate purpose. Hopefully you all will feel more like a purpose detective after our time together. So let's go to the next slide, and I'm going to start with this. Why does purpose matter? Well, let's start with the fact that people at any age who are deeply connected with their sense of purpose live up to 7 years longer. Take away any other health conditions, it's purely a connection with purpose that can add 7 years to life. So right now, that's telling us purpose is more than a nice to have or an afterthought. It is a foundation for health and wellness and healthy longevity. We'll go to the next slide, because I want to tell you a story. When I was 19 years old, I was going to college and I needed some extra spending money and I needed to pay for books because I had a double major. And so I went into Craigslist. For those of you who know what Craigslist is, it was a place to find a part-time job. And I was so fortunate to get to work for Alan. And Alan was the head of disability services at Boston University. So Alan was an executive, he was a lawyer. I got to see him run meetings and engage his workforce and really be like such a meaningful, devoted advocate for people with all kinds of abilities and differences who were working at or attending Boston University. So I saw Alan as an incredible leader. And I also saw Alan at some of the most vulnerable moments of his days, because I was hired not as his executive assistant, but as his personal care assistant. So I would go to his home in the mornings and I would lift him out of bed when I was 19, shower, bathe, comb his hair, suction his lungs, help him into his wheelchair that was mobilized, and then we would go to work together in a van where he could fit the wheelchair and also where there was room for me to sit directly behind him. I don't know if any of you have been to Boston, but it's not really a planned city like New York. It's not a grid. It's streets that are really paved over cow paths. So very bumpy, lots of one ways. The cold climate is not good for smooth streets. So every once in a while, on our way to work, his ventilator would become unattached and alarms would start going off and I would have to reconnect it. Alan was living with muscular dystrophy. And when I met him, he was already at 35 years old, 10 years past his expected lifespan. So when I look back at Alan, I think of him now as one of my first purpose guides who taught me the power of purpose and what it can do to have an impact on life and health. So let's move to the next slide. And I'm going to give you even more data. Purpose is literally a matter of health and life. People who are connected with their purpose can stave off dementia by up to 20%. That's National Institutes of Health. People who are connected with their purpose sleep better, boost their immune system, have less depression, feel happier, have more grit, have more hope, have more stable emotional health, maintain mobility longer, recover faster from illness and injury. I could keep going, but by now I hope you get the point that, again, purpose is not a nice to have. It is literally a matter of life and death and living a good life. And if we go to the next slide, I'm going to start to define purpose by what purpose is not. I found from my years in senior living that many older adults, especially 80 plus in that demographic, have this sense that purpose is all about achieving and reaching goals. And many of them, when they retire, will say, well, I've lost my purpose, or I don't need to have purpose anymore. And that is because they are associating their purpose with a job or a career or a role, like being a mother or a volunteer. I hope that all of you will take away from our time together today that your purpose is not something external. It is not a job. It is not a reaching a goal. It is not a status. I want you to hopefully feel and embrace this. Purpose is not a role or a goal. Purpose is, and let's go to the next slide, who you are naturally. You are born with your purpose, which also means you didn't choose it. Now, you do have the power to grow and expand your purpose, because as long as you're living and leaning into understanding who you are and why you are here, your purpose can always grow and evolve. But the core of it does not change and stays with you until you take your last breath. So here's a definition of purpose. If you have paper with you or you're typing on your computer, please write this down, take a screenshot. Purpose is this: it is your unique and innate ability to give and get meaning and joy every single day. Purpose is about how you show up. It's about your mindset. It's about your internal motivation to get out of bed every morning, because you know there will never be another you. And that by being you, you are born enough and can make a difference. So give and get is also important. Purpose is about an exchange of energy, which is why purpose is so critical for social health. Let's go to the next slide. And I want to emphasize that purpose is wonderful to have when everything in life is going great. But when you really need your purpose is when things are changing, when things get hard. Because life is not about always having roses and beautiful days, although that happens. And with purpose, we have many more of those. But purpose is about knowing that when you fall down, you will get back up again, that you can get back up again, and that you have hope for the future. So, I just saw someone in the chat from Boston. Hi, I'm in Boston right now. So one of the symptoms of disconnection from purpose that you probably hear as life enrichment professionals all the time is residents talking about themselves in the past tense. I used to. I used to. I used to means that I'm not so connected with who I am now and who I might become tomorrow and the next day and the next day. I used to is a reference to who I used to be. It's a signal of grief. It's a signal of identity anchored in the past. It's a signal of not quite being connected with what is my why right now. And it was hearing I used to from people who mentored me, who I admired, who were in their 80s and 90s, referring to themselves in the past tense, that made me finally quit my job and start to do research on purpose, because I couldn't imagine this I used to being healthy. and it's not. It turns out it's not. It's good to think about I used to, but one of the results of this I used to and forming our purpose identity around roles and goals is, next slide, that when people retire, they hit what I call the retirement cliff. A lot of us look forward to retirement. We look forward to that forever vacation. We look forward to not having to carry so much responsibility or maybe get up at 5 a.m. in the morning. But vacation is only good for so long. For some people, that vacation lasts for 2 weeks. For some people, it's 2 months. For some, it's 2 years. But eventually, we are confronted with who am I and why am I here? And if those answers lie in who you used to be and what you used to do, instead of who I am and what lights me up and what gives me meaning and joy every day in the little ways, then you're at risk for falling over that cliff, and it's really hard to climb back up. Let's go to the next slide. So I gave you a general definition of purpose earlier, and hopefully you can remember it. It's how you uniquely and innately give and get meaning and joy every day. Let's dive a little bit deeper into what does that mean. Your purpose is who you are from the inside. It's a light, it's an engine, it's an energy that fuels you first inside, and then it shines out into the world to help and make a difference with other people and help you be connected in meaningful ways to your life. Purpose is what keeps us engaging in life and willing to face fears and obstacles around engagement because we know that our why is bigger than our fear. So what is purpose? It's your superpowers. It's your natural gifts. It's what you value. It's part of your value system. It's how you make meaning. It's how you interact and connect. It's part of your personality. And I'm talking about the big 5 personality, which is at least 40% genetic. Again, not your choice. It's what naturally motivates you. So this is purpose broken down. Now, if you look at the definition of purpose in the dictionary, it's going to talk about goals and roles and achievement and a future focus. All of those are the outcomes of being connected with this that you see on the screen right now. Next slide, please. One more analogy, and then we're going to dive into how purpose helps us with change. I love this image of purpose because you see this beautiful tree. And I actually thought of the name, the purpose equation, when I was in California sitting under redwood trees. I felt their energy and I felt so inspired. And the cool thing about redwood trees is they really don't have a deep, deep root system, even though they're some of the tallest trees in the world. But their root systems connect with each other in order to hold up a forest of trees. And I think that that's very much what purpose does for us as humans as well. It connects us. But before you can connect to others, you've got to be connected with your why. And that starts on the inside, or as this graphic shows, purpose is your root system. Change in life is inevitable. We cannot avoid it. And I encourage you to not spend a lot of energy trying to avoid change. Instead, grow your root system so that when change happens, just like a tree with a strong root system, you can sway in the winds of change instead of cracking and toppling over when those winds come. So we're going to talk about being and doing today, and I want to introduce this concept here. Who you are being is your root system. It's what holds you up in life. It's your why. It's how you give and get meaning and joy every single day. What you do is what other people see, right? That's why people have, and I'm going to say it, that's why the dictionary got it wrong. Defining purpose is what we're doing. But those are outcomes of having this strong root system. Roles and goals, interests and hobbies are derived from our purpose. Okay, so next slide, and let's talk about how having this strong root system and fueling this inner light helps us. So in the chat, list some of the changes that we see as we grow older, as we are lucky enough to have years that we add to our life. so that we can grow. What are some age-related changes that we can expect? Okay, wiser, thank you. It's not all about decline. Thank you. Pain, health issues, changes in our appearance, changes in our sleep. If you click again on the slide, you'll see a list that I put in here, but the chat is doing even better than what my list gives us. Yeah, lots of changes. And, let's be honest as well. A lot of these changes are not easy. It is a gift to be able to live and to gain these years. Oh, I see our amazing enrichment professionals here adding so many. Loss of loved ones, yes, grief, changes in hearing, changes in vision, loss of family and friends. There's also an opportunity to gain them, and purpose helps us with that. Changes in cognition, absolutely. Changes in your body, physiological, psychological changes. So many changes. Next slide. So then the question becomes, how do we manage all of these changes? The first thing is, and I think that we as a society miss this because we have such an ageist society. We're going to talk about that in a moment. I'm going to get on my soapbox about ageism. But before I do that, there is this model of change management that was developed by James Prochaska and Carlo Di Clement. Sorry if I didn't say their names right. That's one of my issues. I really, really don't do well with names, but I tried. This is about intentional behavior change. When we are afraid of change, when we are not anchored in why I'm here, we often try to avoid change out of fear. Purpose helps us face our fears, not make them go away, but face them, and sometimes even hold their hand and walk next to fear. But we need to get into this mode of proactive change management. So this is an intentional behavior change model that I love. And this is change that applies not only to the aging process, but to change management for individuals and also for organizations, right? So the first phase is pre-contemplation. It's before any change or any action happens, it's a starting to accept that something is different. Then we have contemplation, where I'm really thinking through, okay, I see a change, I acknowledge it, what needs to happen? This is a scary thing for so many of us. Change is hard, and it's scary because we don't always know what the outcome is going to look like. So it's easier to stay with what we know than to embrace an unknown. Then there's the action kicking in. There's preparation, right? We're starting to think about what we need to do. Then we get to action. Then we get to maintenance. What I will say about this and purpose is that one of the core ingredients of purpose is intrinsic motivation. Write that down and go research it after we get off the webinar, because I don't have time to go into it with you right now. But intrinsic motivation is joy and excitement. It's the get-tos in life. Like, I will do this thing because I get to do it, not because I have to do it, and not because I should. We're not going to talk about shoulding all over yourself today, but should is guilt, and it's not helpful. So we need to have sustained motivation to go through hard things. And purpose is what helps us do that. Purpose is what helps us move through these phases of change. Let's go to the next slide. This is another super cool model of change I found called engaging with aging. And it starts with, again, having knowledge that change is happening. And then looking into, okay, how am I purpose motivated to adapt? What will happen if I do not change, right? Getting into the internal motivation to keep engaging in life and accepting that it might be a little different. And then we want to look at our resources, internal resources, external resources, environmental resources, and then look at the last stage here. It's about mindset. Bottom line, I'm going to make the argument today that mindset, a growth mindset, a mindset that keeps you moving forward in life, even when the going gets tough, is rooted in, at a base level, daily, knowing how you give and get meaning and joy. That's what sustains us and keeps us going. Next slide. please. If you want to take a screenshot of this, go ahead. It's a little bit more information about the Engaging with Aging framework, but you can see that we talk about adaptive strategies here and the importance of being proactive. And the way to be proactive is to know your purpose. I'm just going to say it. The way to be proactive is to know your purpose, because you know that you have this internal scaffolding that will hold you up through the winds of change. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So write in the chat for me, what's the definition of ageism? A bunch of you can start to write that. Our society, yeah, it's bias, it's stereotyping. It can result in discrimination. It can result in segregation. It's making assumptions. Absolutely. Have you heard of internalized ageism? I love what Todd D. Nelson said. He did a research paper around this. It's been cited many times. I love how he summed it up as internalized ageism is prejudice against our future self. Just sit with that for a minute. What happens when, and I'm sure you also run into people in the grocery store and people in senior living communities saying this, I'm too old to do that. I'm too old to try something new. I'm too old to learn something new. I can't go there. Old people aren't welcomed. Defining yourself as too old in a detrimental way has massive impacts on wellness and longevity, like lower self-esteem, lower engagement in life, and negative health outcomes. And let's go to the next slide. So what's the point of purpose when it comes to ageism? Well, I have found through helping thousands of people define and activate their purpose, that when I know who I am and I know what my why is, and it's not based on external things like what other people think of me or my job or my title or my status or my wealth, when I wake up in the morning because I know exactly how I'm going to give and get meaning and joy today, that all of a sudden my age becomes just another thing, because I'm not defining myself by how I think other people might see me. And my mindset becomes that of a growth mindset. I am, I can, I get to, I will. When people have a more positive perception of themselves that is based on knowing who I am and why I am here, again, we're adding 7.5 years to life. Mindset is everything. Next slide. And purpose is the foundation of mindset. Now, let's just see in the chat, because I want to see how much time to spend on this one. How many of you life enrichment professionals have heard of this theory of aging, selective optimization with compensation? Have you heard of it? Say yes, no in the chat so I can tell. Okay, I see a lot of no's. So take a screenshot of this as well and go and do your research on it. It really helped me with developing the purpose equation. It's a theory that is a little bit in question now, but it's still relevant. I always want to be honest about where the research is, because it's always updating, and so are we, right? Selective optimization with compensation has 3 components to it, and it is a theory of aging and how to age successfully, positively, healthily. Is that a word? That's what it means. So what it means is, as we get older and as our abilities change, we're not always going to be able to do everything that we have always done. Now, what we can do in order to age successfully and stay engaged in life is to choose the things that are really meaningful for us, that we really love to do. So narrowing down on meaning and purpose, right? And understand that we're not going to be able to choose and keep doing everything that we've always done. But the things that are super meaningful, we're going to focus on what it looks like to optimize and adapt to be able to continue doing those things that we love. Does that make sense? As life enrichment professionals, I want you to understand this theory, because part of our role is to find out what is it that brings meaning and joy to each person in our community. And how can we help them focus on that? And how can we help them make changes in their life and in their activities, but also to try new things that hold that same depth of meaning? And I want to give you an example of that if we go to the next slide. This is pianist Arthur Rubinstein. He lived in 1887 to 1882. And as he was a world-renowned pianist. And he, over time, started to notice a decline in his motor skills and the speed of his playing. But he didn't give up. We see a lot of people saying, I can't do that anymore. I give up. I'm not who I used to be. I can't. I used to, right? But when we look at purpose, purpose is on the screen here. He says, you cannot play the piano unless you are singing within you. That's purpose, right? This is something that he is compelled to do, that's coming from inside of him, and he's sharing out into the world, right? This is what he did. He selected. So he focused on a smaller repertoire of pieces, choosing the music that he could still play at a high level. So he eliminated some things, chose the things that were meaningful that he could still feel confident about. Then he optimized. He practiced those pieces more and more and more efficiently, and he refined his technique so that he could make the most of his strengths and abilities. And then finally, he compensated. He slowed down playing certain sections of the music. His audience thought, oh my goodness, he's just gotten more dramatic. But really what he was doing was compensating for his abilities. And he was able to play for years and years and years longer, even though his abilities were changing. So, do you understand selective optimization with compensation? The core of this is purpose. We have to understand what makes our heart sing. We have to, as life enrichment professionals, understand what is it that makes our residents' hearts sing and focus on that. It might not be all of their interests and hobbies that we want to support and help them adapt. We got to go to the heart of it, which is the purpose and the meaning. Okay, next slide. Some other models and theories that I'd like you to be aware of. You might have heard of this term, successful aging. I don't personally love it, but it is out there and it does have some points that I think are worth exploring. So successful aging has two components to it, the objective and the subjective. Now, in the world of purpose, subjective well-being is very important. How we think, feel, and judge our life, whether or not it's true, actually matters the most. That's exactly right, what Chase says. We all have our own definition of success and what matters. That's exactly it. So we don't need to focus on what is. We need to focus on how we feel about what is. That's what really matters. So, of course, there are things like cognitive function, physical function, health, that are changing. And some of those we have control over or we can impact, but we don't ultimately fully control. And then there's the psychosocial factors. Do we have a sense of purpose? Are we, because we have a sense of purpose, willing to stay actively engaged in life, even if we might feel shy or embarrassed or uncertain because we are going through some of the changes that we talked about at the top of this webinar? It's, again, about purpose and mindset, because that's something that we can craft and create and grow and evolve until we take our last breath. Next slide. The blue zones. You've probably heard about this as well, but I want to make sure that it's on your radar. The blue zones are around a healthy diet, around social activity, about natural movement, moving through life rather than exercising at set times. But outlook, mindset, purpose, meaning, joy are a key component of the longevity and healthy longevity that we see in the blue zones. So again, purpose has been identified as a way to adapt to the aging experience. Next slide. Growth mindset when we go to the next slide. Growth mindset There was a study done with older adults, and I've cited it here, so you can take a screenshot, or we can send you the links. But a growth mindset means that every time something doesn't go my way, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to think of it as a failure. I'm not going to think that I've reached the limit of what I can do. All those things are a fixed mindset. A growth mindset is back to this of I can, I will keep trying, I will keep learning, I can, which is fueled by purpose, right? I know why I'm here. Even when things get hard, even when my abilities change, I'm going to have the strength and the foresight and the proactive mindset to think about it and to deal with it and to keep going. This study showed that people who adopt a growth mindset as they age tend to age better and have higher cognitive function. So again, growth mindset, super important. And I'll ask you as life enrichment professionals, what are you doing to identify and help our residents adopt a growth mindset? The first thing you can do is help them with this tool that we're going to introduce in a minute, which helps to really jump into a purpose mindset. Okay, if we go to the next slide, this is a little graphic that I made in Canva. Thank you, Canva. But to me, it explains how purpose and a sense of our why helps us incrementally over time, as we age, as we live, expand our comfort zone. This to me is a graph that also shows what adaptive aging looks like. If you haven't picked up on this by now, successful aging, okay. Healthy aging, okay. Adaptive aging is really the key. So the more you know your why and the more you're willing to go a little bit out of your comfort zone because you know you can do it, the bigger your comfort zone gets. And it's what keeps us engaged in life rather than withdrawing from life as we experience age-related changes. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. All right, one more theory, and then I'm going to give you a tool. But again, I want to emphasize the life enrichment profession is here because all of these theories point to why we are so important and what we can understand in order to help us create purposeful communities. So put in the chat, what does rehabilitation mean? Y'all have been jumping in the chat. Now it's quiet. There you go. Okay. Rehabilitation, yes, is about building strength, restoration, getting stronger. I'm seeing all of this in the chat. Yes, being able to continue what you're doing, right? It's about getting better. It's about setting a goal and going from, I used to be here, something happened, my ability is here, but with rehabilitation, I will be able to get back here again. I want to introduce what I think is a beautiful theory introduced by Dr. Paul Rea of the Massachusetts New Hampshire Alzheimer's Association. And that is, if we go to the next slide, not rehabilitation, but in a memory care environment, it's called the habilitation theory. Habilitation is not about helping people get better from dementia, but it is about bringing joy and meaning and purpose to everyday life by focusing on what people can do rather than all the things, oh, she can't do this anymore, he can't do that anymore, he can't do that anymore. It's about what can you do and how can we focus on that to uplift your mood. Imagine senior living professionals. If we were purpose guides, if we could help residents and employees, by the way, discover their purpose so that we could know for sure what brings them meaning and joy. And then as they move through this cognitive journey of dementia, when they're no longer able to communicate or initiate those things that bring joy, what if we knew and we could meet them there in that space? So Habilitation also takes advantage of the fact that there's this part of your brain called the amygdala. It's deep in your brain, and it holds both the fight or flight response, but also our deep sense of meaning and emotions. This is why people who are living with dementia can not recognize your face, but feel that you are someone who loves them and cares for them, because that part of the brain still exists. And so when we focus on creating positive emotions and focusing on abilities, this is how we as life enrichment professionals can help people who are living with Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia connect with their purpose and still feel joy and meaning and value and contribute as they are living with cognitive changes. Okay, next slide. Okay, I lied. One more theory, but it's important for you to know. Take a screenshot. What this theory says is that as we get older and we are aware that we have less time ahead of us than the time we have already lived, so time horizon has gotten shorter. Now, this can also, by the way, happen to people who have had a major illness or a near-death experience. You realize that time is short and life is short and precious. What happens to us psychologically is that I'm going to try not to swear, cut out the BS in our life and focus on meaning and joy, because ultimately that's what matters. I think that the meaning of life is to have meaning in life. I'm going to say that again. The meaning of life is to have meaning in life. Now, meaning is not all about flowers and roses. Meaning is about the deep feelings that connect us. Meaning can include grief. Meaning can include heartache. Meaning includes changes in abilities as we age. But meaning is why we're here. It's our why. So we can take advantage of the fact that as people are getting older, they are wanting more meaning and connection and less of the other stuff in life. Let's go to the next slide. So, purpose, as I've hopefully at this point preached to you, purpose is not about external things. You're not going to find your purpose by looking for a job or looking for a role or a title or status or money. You're going to find your purpose by looking inside and defining what gives you meaning and joy in life. And Nelson Mandela agrees with us. Let's go to the next slide. And an example of what looking a little bit deeper or beyond the surface looks like is Lucille Ball. You life enrichment professionals in senior living know who she is. Groundbreaking comedian, did things a woman had never done. But she didn't think of herself as funny. That's the surface level. Her purpose was to be brave and courageous. That's what helped her break barriers. So now I'm going to introduce a tool on the next slide that's going to help you first think about your own purpose and your own sense of meaning, and then become a purpose detective to listen for meaning and joy in residence. Look at each of these words on the screen. Take a screenshot, write them down. Teacher, creator, innovator, connector, learner. These are not goals or roles. These are the root system, back to that tree that I showed you. These are ways of being. You are hearing every day residents sharing with you who they are being. And that's what I want you to listen for. Not for what they're doing. Who are you being? What does it mean to be a teacher? The role or goal of being a teacher means you go to school, you create a curriculum, you teach students how to pass a test, you share knowledge. To be a teacher, to have the mindset of a teacher means one who loves knowledge, one who loves to share knowledge with many different brains and many different types of learners, one who shares knowledge and loves to see the light bulb go off in other people. Like, it's what keeps me going. It's what I get out of bed excited to do in the morning. That's what it means to be a teacher. What does it mean to be an explorer? What does it mean to be one who loves to learn? What does it mean to be a leader? This is a really fun workshop you can do with your residents to have a group discussion with them about what do each of these things mean. And now what I'd love for you to do in the chat is look at these words on the screen. And when you think about who are you being, not what you do, not your job, not what you've done in the past, but your mindset about how you get meaning in life, which of these ways of being resonates with you the most? And here's the thing, you're going to say, but Anna, I'm a learner and an explorer and a partner. And I'm going to say, cool, that could be the case. But remember, part of what we need to do to adapt and to focus in on our purpose is to narrow it down before we can expand it out. For me, I think of myself as a learner. I wake up every day excited to think about things in a new way, to rethink or unthink something that I thought I knew, to learn more about the people that I get to interact with every day, to understand what makes them tick, to try to discover their purpose. That's learning for me. Super curious, lifelong learner. It's also really fun to do this with your colleagues. Do this as a team building exercise. Learn who each of them are being. So do you get the point of this? I think you do. I see a lot of interaction in the chat, and that's beautiful. Let's go to the next slide, and then the next slide. We'll skip that over. We'll skip over this one. Okay, screenshot moment right here. Remember, who you are being is the anchor. When you are anchored in who you are being, like a connector or a teacher or a leader or a learner or a builder or an explorer, there are infinite ways for you to do those things. Not a job or a role or a goal. And if you are being an explorer, if exploring to you used to mean hiking mountains and now that's not feasible anymore, how else can you explore? Write it in the chat. If I used to explore by hiking mountains and now my physical abilities have changed and I cannot explore mountains anymore, what are some other ways that I can be an explorer? This is where I love our life enrichment professionals. You're just going to see the chat filling up with ideas. I love it. Yeah, find flatter terrain, armchair travel, read books, explore new things besides mountains. Go fly. I love it. Take YouTube. Yes, scavenger hunts. Go to outdoor parks, smaller hikes. Yes, yes, yes. Do you see what we're talking about now with how knowing your purpose gives you infinite possibilities to adapt to change? Yes? Say yes in the chat if you're with me. Okay. All right. Awesome. Let's go to the next slide. And I know we're almost out of time, so I'm going to kind of zip through these. Here's what I want you to know. You human beings out there, you are meaning-making machines. We are built psychologically to need to understand what is happening to us so that we can continue to put one foot in front of the other when things get hard. Meaning making is so important to us that we will make up meaning for something just to feel a sense of understanding it. We will say things like, I'm wearing black and there's a black background on my screen, so I was meant to be on this webinar today. Let's go to the next slide. Here's the other reason why meaning is important. And this is Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, another person who has informed so much about how I think about awe and joy and meaning making. Now, he said when a man, we can change that now to when a human finds that it is our destiny to suffer, meaning we can't avoid change. The winds of change are here. Our unique opportunity lies in the way that we manage this burden. And the answer to how we manage this burden of life and change is to understand why we're here and to embrace the fact, next slide, by the way, and to embrace the fact that change is coming and purpose is our root system. When I know why I'm here, I'm going to keep playing that piano. Even if I have to change my tune a little bit, I'm going to still let my heart sing. So psychologically speaking, we know that humans need to make meaning. So why not, as life enrichment professionals, are we not helping our residents to figure out what meaning making looks like for them, and then to create environments and programs and moments. I'm a big fan of moments where meaning is the core of the activity. Let's go to the next slide. Grief is also about change. We need to talk a lot about more in this, we need to talk more about this in senior living. And we have grief not only from losing friends and peers, but we also have grief over the changes that we've been talking about in our time together today. And we need to address that. We need to talk about it. Those changes are scary. And when we take them out of the darkness and bring them into the light and realize that so many of us are going through these same changes, it makes it a lot easier to talk about them and then anchor in our purpose to move forward. Next slide. So I invite you now that you have this tool of those words, right? Words are magical and meaningful tools. You have tools now. Who are you being? A teacher, a connector, an explorer, a builder, a partner, right? Now, when you are talking with residents, a new resident moves in, or a resident has had a change in condition, or they're grieving, or you've just noticed that they're starting to disengage from life a little bit because some changes are happening, have this conversation. What's the most meaningful part of your day? It might be something that doesn't seem significant. It might be when I go to the dining room and my favorite employee, who's been a server in the dining room for 5 years, comes and brings me my favorite cup of tea with exactly the amount of sugar that I like in it. Do we know these things? Right? Tell me about your interests, but I don't want you to stop at interests. I want you to go, what is it that you like about that thing, right? Find out who the person is being in relation to that interest so that we can help them adapt. So if we go to the next slide, this is an example of what I mean. You have a resident who fills out an intake form or a profile, and the resident says, I love to play pickleball. I have to play pickleball. The only reason I'm moving here is because you have a pickleball court. We are doing a disservice if we stop at pickleball and say, okay, go play pickleball. You're right. That's it. No, we need to go deeper. Where's the purpose in the pickleball? Is it because this person loves movement? We want to help them adapt to change if pickleball is no longer an option 2 years from now. Do you love pickleball because it's a super social sport and you're a connector and a partner? Or do you love pickleball because you're a builder and an explorer and an adventurer? And we need to make sure that we always have that available for you to explore and grow in your life. Is this making sense? Tell me yes in the chat. And if it is, I'll invite Charles back. If it's not, I really did something wrong. I'll have to keep working on this because I'm always trying to get better. Okay, awesome. So if we go to the next slide, and it is the second to last slide, I want to leave you with this. Julie, her name was Judith, actually. I just put that there because I don't know why. She's so special to me. I was her purpose guide. And when she came to me, she was stuck. She'd lost her husband. She didn't know who she was. All she could say to me was, I used to be a teacher. We discovered her purpose, and she now has a whole new vocabulary to talk about her why, and she knows exactly how she gives and gets meaning every day. That has nothing to do with what she used to do, although there's of course that golden thread that's continuous. And she said, you know, Anna, it's one thing to know objectively that each of us is special in some way, but when I know my purpose, I can start to behave like someone who knows she is special. And that is really the key here. So Charles, you want to come on up and we can field some Q&A with the time that we have left? I know that was
Absolutely.
quite a whirlwind, but let's see if people have any questions.
Yeah, I mean, there were a number of, I mean, there's so many comments, you probably saw some of them, Anna. I think one that strikes me the most, and where I think you have so much experience, is on the fact that, you know, older adults, when they enter senior living, it, you know, obviously they're all different individuals. But one thing that's common most of the time is that they're going to embark on a cognitive journey, right? So whether they start in IL or in A or in memory care,
Yes.
if we are lucky to have them long enough, that's going to be a journey just by itself. And wondering, you know, in your line of work, how do you see our audience accompany that journey back?
Yeah. start with purpose discovery, be purpose detectives from day one. I mean, it really starts with our sales professionals in discovery, going deeper than interests and hobbies. But when we do that handover from sales to operations into life enrichment, let's go deeper. The questions that I learned as a coach, and you all write these down, never ask why. Why do you like pickleball? But what is it about pickleball that you love? Tell me more about that. Oh, tell me more. We learned in coaching school that you have to ask the why or the tell me more at least 3 times to get to the heart of it.
Yeah.
At the heart of that, you're going to hear not what the person does, but you're listening for who is this person being? What is that golden thread through their history into their current life now that lights them up and gives them meaning and joy every day? And then we continue to pull on that thread until the last breath, if it happens through the dementia journey, because joy and meaning is most accessible to people who are living with cognitive changes and particularly Alzheimer's and dementia. It's a way that they are able to connect. For me personally, working in memory care was probably my favorite job because it was so much about meaningful connection and joy.
Yeah. I love this really actually very practical but deep advice of asking 3 times. It reminds me a lot of the working in the validation method, which is always to go where the person is. And it's just a great reminder. Thank you so much, Anna. I know we're almost at time, but it's not really a personal question, Anna, but I think I wanted to ask you this question, which is that I know you've been with Front Porch for several months, right? But there's sort of world of things you can accomplish, right? Like you could literally change the lives of so many people, staff, and residents. In what excites you the most about that, I guess?
What excites me the most about it?
Yeah.
Let me be super honest. This is the scariest job I've ever had. I wake up every day with a healthy dose of humility and fear because I have the ability to impact so many people, right? And the impact is either going to be neutral, which is what's the point, negative, which is
Yeah.
harmful, or helpful. And so for me, I need my purpose more now than ever to keep me focused and anchored in the power of purpose and why I'm here in order to not be kind of paralyzed by fear or so scared of making a mistake. So that's where purpose also helps me with that growth mindset of I say, okay, you know what? I'm going to make a mistake today, but what am I going to learn from it? And that's what keeps me going. For selfishly, this is an opportunity to put my purpose to the test and to live in it every single day. But from a joy perspective, I mean, we get to do purpose workshops at Front Porch. We get to create a learning and development and career paths that are focused not on what people do, but who they are as beings. And I'm very excited for us at Front Porch to bring this to our industry because it's where the stickiness is, right? It's where the staying power is.
Yeah.
Intrinsic motivation and purpose and meaning. It's the platform for growth, change, innovation, everything.
How lucky they all are to have you, really. Anna, thank you so much for being so vulnerable, right? Because, I mean, it's true. It has to be, in a good way, challenging, and in a way, daunting. But I also want to connect a dot, which is maybe what a lot of our audience members are feeling, maybe in a bigger scale or smaller scale. Even if I'm in the activity director in one community, I still bear a little bit that angst, I assume. So thank you for that.
Responsibility. It is a responsibility.
Yeah.
And you can either be intimidated by that responsibility or say, like, I get to have this responsibility. What am I going to do with it today?
Yeah.
Right? What am I going to do with it today? I'm the lucky one. Yeah. I get to meet all of our amazing people. Like, I'm lucky every day.
You're great at just weaving all these kind of lessons learned. Anna, on behalf of my team, on behalf of the audience, I truly want to thank you again for joining us. It's been an honor. Everyone, I would encourage you highly to connect with Anna on LinkedIn. I am going to share, if it's okay, Anna, I'm going to share with the audience her profile in Slack so we can connect and continue the discussion with Anna if you all want to.
Yes.
And with that, what you're going to say something, Anna?
No, I was to say thank you for having me, and I want to thank our participants for their engagement. Thank you. It keeps me going. It's not fun to talk to a blank screen, so I really appreciate you all for engaging with me.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. Just a few quick announcements and actually that's a good time to a part of our discussions today, which is what Anna referred to as the one of the key aspects with our residents is understanding them. And so that's one of the core announcements that we actually released this morning, which is that Life Group just launched a really wonderful, amazing, I've seen it for several weeks now. It's so exciting to see it hit the market, but an AI-enhanced resident onboarding. So if you have any questions, please, connect, just take your phone, you can scan the QR code. There's a press release that I can also share with us in the chat. You can just go and click on the announcements on LinkedIn here. That's a pretty important announcement. And then in terms of upcoming education, very excited to share our next flourishing community name called Redefining Resident Engagement on April 22nd with two amazing organizations, Westminster St. Augustine and Woodlands Creek. And our next webinar, Activity Strong webinar is, and actually, sorry, tied on back to Anna's conversation also today, like this connection that we often talk about, which is happy staff, happy residents, what's the correlation? So Sherry has decades of experience working on the more on the staff side, and then Alyssa, if you don't know her, is an amazing leader in the resident engagement space. She's the association director with National Associations of Activity Professionals. With that, I want to thank you all again, Anna. Deep thanks. Really deeply thanking you for an amazing presentation. And everyone, have an amazing rest of your day and week. And let's be purposeful in our purpose. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anna.